Stela is on a mission to humanize the workplace. She works with the Conference Board's Fortune 500 corporations members and help them rethink their workplace and workforce strategies through research and facilitated conversations so they can prepare for what's ahead. She leads Reframe.work Inc. and consults on how to create inclusive workplaces through the use of technology, human-centered design, people analytics, and future thinking. She founded Amazing.community, a nonprofit extending the work horizon for women 50 plus. Welcome, Stela.
Thrilled much for the opportunity.
We have a problem in hearing you well. Can you maybe just try to connect with the other? Yeah, great. I see you have another earphones. That's great. We'll just wait for a sec.
How about now?
Oh, this is
better.
This is perfect.
Excellent.
That's great.
Technology.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck with your presentation.
Thank you so much. So welcome, everyone. I realize this is the one of the last sessions, and if I gathered the insights from the previous sessions, it's all about humans and putting human to the center of the conversation, finally, in the workplace especially. So I'm really thrilled to just add another dose of that humanizing view to the conversation. So I'll start a little bit with introduction. So I am originally from Moldova. I had the privilege of working on incredible initiatives back at the time when the Soviet Union fell apart. I ended up joining Pricewaterhouse, and then it took me on a global journey. I have 3 children. I'm really passionate about travel and cooking and the future of work. And I really would love to share that passion with all of you through telling the journey that I went through in my life. So let's start first with a career definition, right? It's an occupation that is taken for a significant period of a person's life. And typically we describe career as something that it's a very company specific, and it's an organization bound only, and no longer the notion of what a career as a personal journey, at least from organizational perspective, is being considered. However, if you think about every single one of us, the likelihood of us staying in one job for a lifetime, it's very slim. No longer people stay in jobs or with one company, sometimes because the company is not surviving that long, but many times it's because we want to pursue opportunities for growth, for development, for expansion of our mindset and the worldview. It is, in some cases, an occupation, and it's just something to provide an income. More likely than not, it is something to give us more than just financial income and security. So let's start with my story. The way I would typically describe it is I started in math and computer science. That's the education that I've taken. And then I started working, building custom systems, applying my skills. Then I realized that a lot of the development work, it's standard or consistent across multiple projects. So why can't some of that be either automated or made as a template, and then only the differences developed separately? So that's where the idea to move into enterprise solution, the ERPs, where a lot of the development is already done and you're just doing the configuration. And then I realized that if you change the process, then it's much easier to adapt the system, so transformation can happen much easier. So that's how I got into process improvement work. Then I had the aha moment that if you get into to change the service delivery, then the process will adapt and change along the way, and then the technology will follow. And that's how I ended up doing a lot of the service delivery transformation work. Then I realized that if you change the strategy, then you will have a much different way of looking at the entire operations and service delivery model and processes that will follow and technology that will follow. Then the last aha moment I had is if you have the enough data and facts and information that you can then tell the story to inform the strategy, then the rest of it, the chain will follow. And obviously that was the journey that I taken. I started in custom system development. I moved into ERP implementations. I did process improvement. I did shared services. I did strategy work. And then towards the latter part of my career, I moved back into the math and computer science. I guess now it's called analytics. And obviously all of this sounds glamorous, with a lot of successes. There was always a projected path and transitions. And meanwhile, I moved between countries, between companies. However, the companies were not, I wasn't quitting organizations. They just happened to acquire or merge over time. And that sounds like a great story that can be described on resumes and in interviews. And obviously, it's not the case. In reality, as we all know, our life is much more complicated, and the path and the journey we take sometimes has a lot of pivots, a lot of decision points that we have to make in relationships to the family, to the reality in which we work, to the country in which we happen to be at that time. So when we think about career, there's always roadblocks and different events that happen, right? You may come to an organization and you have to build everything from scratch: your reputation, your relationships, your presence, your knowledge base, and understanding and ability to make an impact. And obviously, a lot of times the roles may not necessarily be clear, or sometimes they are even conflicted. And you have to make decision in the moment based on the values that you carry and the interest you have to make an impact as a human being, as an employee, as a parent, as a whatever role you play. And obviously, there are a lot of new changes. And every single time you thought, okay, I have the goalpost, I have the idea of where I want to go, I know the rules of the game, I can play this game. Something else comes in. The process, the performance management process changes, or the leader and the manager changes halfway through. All of the things make you take a step back and again react in the moment, as opposed to thinking that this is one grand plan that you have to execute. And then, of course, you run into detours. You happen to have children. You happen to have family circumstances, parents that may not be well, that you have to take care of. Sometimes that detour may take a very strange path that you may not have even thought was possible, or you had the ability to explore. So in my case, had I thought that growing up in the Soviet Union, I would have the opportunity to ever travel abroad, that was a completely outside of my realm of possibilities. And obviously, life changes and then opens up new doors. And then, of course, sometimes the tour takes a very winding route. And I learned to call that taking the scenic route, as opposed to thinking it as a negative thing. Sometimes you have to take the wrong exit in order to learn a new area or a new way to get to the destination you're looking to get to. So now let's ground ourselves in the day of and the spirit of the holiday. So today in the US, it's Thanksgiving. And this is a day when we give thanks for everything we have in our lives, for relationships, for people, for opportunities, for both physical and emotional benefits we're getting. So I want to use this as an opportunity to both tell the real story of my career, as well as give thanks to everybody who contributed. So the story began really as a strange decision, first one that I made to pursue math and computer science as opposed to biology. I was really, really passionate about biology and studying that space. However, when I looked at how much I have to study in order to apply to university, biology was that, math was that. So that was the decision. So I studied, then I decided to not go back to the town I'm from after graduating. I decided to stay in a capital, and I was working at a publishing house, and I was having coffee with one of my former colleagues. And he said, look, we're looking for people. I'm working on this project to privatize all the state-owned enterprises, to build a capital markets infrastructure in Moldova after the fallout of the Soviet Union. So would you be interested to consider? I said, sure. Then I had the interview with Psych, who ended up being my manager. And in the broken English, in the really unpolished interview presence, he gave me a chance, and I ended up working on a project. I moved to several other projects afterwards in Moldova. Then I had a child, and I went on maternity leave. Meanwhile, my husband had gotten the opportunity to do something similar and continue with Pricewaterhouse, but in Ukraine this time. So we moved. We loaded our family, the baby, into a little minivan and moved across countries to pursue the next step. And then after 6 or 7 months, I said, I need to come back. So I decided to go back and interview at Pricewaterhouse for Ukraine. And at that time, I had an interview with Mitch, and he gave me a chance. So I started working, and we continued to do similar type of work, except that it was for Ukrainian companies and environment. And then I ended up going to Moscow for a training at that time, and we got exposed and interacted with a few of the local people. And then they made an offer for us to transfer to Moscow. So thank you, Aaron, for suggesting. Thank you, Kami and Raul, for giving us a chance and transferring us to Moscow. After that, we had the opportunity to get trained on SAP. And out of all the people in the office, me and one other lady got trained to learn SAP HR. So this is how I got into the world of HR. There was no other reason than being a female, and we were told, look, we'll train you as women in HR because you will be able to relate to that. Not that we're planning to implement it ever. And that's how I ended up in HR. During that time, HR was a very emerging space, especially in technology. SAP HR was very new. The training center in Philadelphia, where we got our certification, was not really equipped to deliver this type of training en masse. So they offered us to come and build out the training content more solidly, the training environment, etc. So Angela gave us a chance to come to US. During that time, my husband applied to schools here in the US and got accepted. So by the end of that course, or the period we were here as teaching assistants, we saw the real opportunity to actually come to US. And obviously we went back to Moscow to just resign from the, at that time, Pricewaterhouse, and join PricewaterhouseCoopers in the US. And thanks to Gary for making connections to the local recruitment team, who then enabled all of the localization and integration into the US environment. Then I was a consultant, and I was traveling day in and day out, and Pricewaterhouse was going through its own economic issues. And I happened to have a second child at that time, and I was on maternity leave, and I got a call from Karen, who was a partner in our practice, who said, look, you are of great value, but we right now are looking at all of our staff. We're making decisions about layoffs, and we see that you're not interested to travel just because you have another child, but that's a problem because that will possibly put you on the list for layoffs, and would you be open to reconsider? And of course I said, sure. And Karen gave me a chance, and I continued to stay as an employee and continue to do projects. And then at some point in time later on, where all my kids were crying on my cases every Sunday, I said, it's time to get off the road and make different decisions about my career path, not in consulting, maybe something more, with less travel involved. So that's when I had a conversation with, and I pursued a role internally. By that time, IBM already had acquired PwC Consulting, so I was working for IBM. And I had an interview with the head of HR IT strategy at IBM, and Mike gave me a chance, and I ended up transforming a lot of the technology infrastructure internally at IBM, moving from 468 systems, HRIS systems around the world, to an integrated solution that had data, learning, analytics, and HR transactions systems all integrated and in sync. After that, I was poached to come and run the operations of the HR business development team. So IBM was very acquisitive, a lot of integration activities that had to be done from HR perspective. So that's how I ended up doing that role, and Darren gave me a chance. Then Pam poached me to come run a project on transforming IBM's service delivery model. And I did a lot of process improvement work there. We established a new service center in Kuala Lumpur. A lot of exciting way of looking at the service delivery model for HR at one of the largest technology organizations. Then at that time, around 2010, IBM was going through centennial celebration, and a lot of the reflection work on what the past looked like and how the next 100 years might look like, and how can we use HR's capabilities to help propel the organization into that future. So that's how I ended up working on a lot of the HR strategy activities, and then collaborating with a couple of research labs to build the future work strategy for IBM, as well as build some of the analytics platforms that helped make sense of the IBMers sentiment. So the perfect example of how that sentiment analysis tool was used was after I left IBM, came out an article that was describing how there was a point in time when IBM declared that the Uber is not going to be reimbursed, and that created a huge amount of unhappiness, especially for those who have to travel and have to be on the road all the time. So on the internal social network, there was a consultant who made a comment about how poor of a decision that is. A lot of people liked, commented, and upvoted, and that got picked up by the tool we built with the research team, and it got escalated to the head of HR. So in a matter of 16 hours, the policy got reversed. So it was a perfect example of how, by building technology and allowing people to have a voice, you can get in front of a lot of the employee issues, as well as a leader, address the issue before it blows up in your face. So that was my return back into the world of analytics. And after that, I got poached to go run people analytics at TIAA, and after that at Fidelity. And I had the privilege of working with a lot of amazing people, and every single time it was a chance somebody gave me. It wasn't something that I had in mind or had decided to pursue intentionally. I veered into it by chance sometimes, and sometimes by sheer luck. So with that, it's an opportunity to give thanks, but also help us think differently about careers and opportunities and the power that we think organizations have, as opposed to giving that power back to the humans to make decisions about what they want to do, how they want to do it, and how they want to pursue it. And all of this reframing requires a different way of looking at the world of the workers, really about the experience that they have. And the workplace experience is a new space that a lot of HR professionals are starting to get into. It is something that is inspired by the consumer or customer experience. If you think about leaders such as Amazon, Apple, Google, a lot of the success that they can attribute to is that human centricity, is the human-centered design thinking that they are bringing to their products development, to their offerings development, to make sure that whatever they produce, it's done in a way that brings the degree of aesthetic usability, ease of use, empowerment given to the consumer. And the same type of thinking now is coming to the world of work. And we have the opportunity not only to use that type of methodology to design our programs, but also to consider the entire journey of the worker. Let me explain. So typically HR is considering the work primarily from the point when a person applies until they quit. But our journey is much longer and broader, right? Our relationship with an employer may start very early on. Maybe in school they provided some investment to specific educational programs, or maybe they are supporting the local community where we live. So for us, the discovery of that brand happens much, much, much earlier, and how that discovery shapes our impression also matters, because it may make us say, I don't want ever to work for anybody who does whatever they do, or I'm passionate, I'm willing to bring my talent to that organization. Then they decide to apply, then they decide to pursue employment, and that shapes an experience too, because you may get a certain impression of what it's like to work for the company. You may have certain interactions with people, with managers, hiring leaders. All of that shapes what we think about what it's like to work there. And that alone may make us decide not to pursue further, or make us even more excited about working there. Even if we don't get the job, that is an experience too. And how we made to feel during that time also will shape how we want to continue to come back for other opportunities, or never again. Once we come through the threshold, right, there is a process of getting yourself equipped and enabled with tools, and integrated into the teams, and developed and invested in, and collaborate with team members, inspired to do something just because of the purpose of the organization. A lot of things that we as employees experience is day in and day out. What we do may not necessarily is what HR provides us with. HR probably has influence over a small portion of this, but it's other activities that shape all of our impression of what it's like to be at the company. Even after we leave, there is still a relationship, right? We may come back as a consultant or a contractor, or we may continue to be a shareholder, or maybe we become a regulator, or maybe we decide to come back. All of the collective experiences that we have throughout the journey will continue to shape and inform whether or not we recommend or we have a positive impression of the company, and leave a positive feedback on that Glassdoor, whatever the social media channel is. So the opportunity for HR is to partner with other parts, other functions, such as space planning, such as IT, such as management, finance, to create this experience along the entire journey, as opposed to trying to think just in silo about the HR processes. The other thing to consider from HR perspective is the fact that we have different expectations. So yes, some people come just for money and to get access to benefits, or a safe work environment. But once some of those fundamental things are addressed, there's a whole lot more. Some people want to develop their skills. Some people want to build their a reputation. They want to work in an environment that is simple to get the work done. Some people want to belong to a network, a community of people who jointly try to make an impact. Some people want to attain a status, and some want to leave a legacy. depending on what the individual life stage provides them at the moment, they may make different decisions about the priorities and what they value in that relationship. And of course, not every organization can do everything and deliver on all of these, but as long as you pick a few, pick top 3 and say, we are going to be known for being a company that is transparent and safe and ethical. And then you build those principles into every decision, into every process that you make a change to, or every technology investment that you make. That will provide a congruence between expectations and what people see in the workplace. And then, of course, without analytics and measurement, it'll be difficult to justify the investments, and because this is really an ongoing journey. It's not something that happens overnight or is just one transformation. It's a way of doing business. And you start from the end, right? You want to start with specific business outcomes that you want to impact, or customer satisfaction, or brand image and employment image that you want to have. And then look across the entire employee journey and determine what is the earliest intervention point that you can have a positive impact. Sometimes
Stela,
that...
sorry for
Yep.
interrupting you.
Yep.
Can you do a quick wrap up in
Yep.
the next minute, maybe?
Yes, okay. I'm getting there. Exactly. So if we think about an example of outcome, right? Turnover, attrition doesn't happen overnight. It happens in little paper cuts. So how can we identify through data the earliest intervention point to reduce the likelihood of people disengaging and then leaving? And a lot more data now allows us to do that type of analysis. So in conclusion, I want to ask all of you, if you had a chance to give somebody, what would that chance be? Can you give the second chance to somebody who might have had a poor experience? Or can you look at the work that you do and the processes and changes that you make to create that experience in a positive way for everybody? And with that, that's the end.